January 24, 2023. Duxbury, Massachusetts. A quiet coastal town 40 miles south of Boston. The kind of place where colonial houses sit behind white picket fences, where snow falls softly on quiet streets, and where nothing bad is supposed to happen. At 6:11 in the evening, Duxbury Police Dispatch sends every available cruiser to 47 Summer Street. The call describes an attempted suicide. A woman has reportedly cut herself and jumped from a second-story window. What officers find when they arrive is only the beginning. Inside that house, 3 children are dead or dying. Their mother lies broken in the backyard, paralyzed from the waist down, and her husband, running frantically through his own home, is about to say 4 words that will define a case the entire country is now watching. She killed the kids. This is the story of Lindsay Clancy, a labor and delivery nurse, a mother of 3, a woman accused of murdering her own children, and a woman whose defense claims she is not guilty, because in the months before that January evening, her mind had already been destroyed. To understand what happened inside that house, you first have to understand the woman who lived in it. Lindsay Marie Clancy, born Lindsay Musgrove in 1990, built her career around bringing new life into the world. She worked as a registered nurse in the labor and delivery unit at Massachusetts General Hospital, one of the most respected hospitals in the country. Every day, she helped mothers through the most vulnerable moment of their lives. In December 2016, she married Patrick Clancy. Together they settled into the affluent, close-knit community of Duxbury and began building a family. Their daughter Cora was born on December 24, 2017. Their son Dawson followed on September 30, 2019. And in May of 2022, their youngest son Callan completed the family. By outward appearances, the Clancys had everything. Photographs from the months before the tragedy show a family that looked in every sense ordinary and happy. Patrick took Cora skiing. Lindsay photographed her children playing in fresh snow. They texted each other constantly. Pictures of bath time, of naps, of small everyday moments. Neighbors and colleagues described a devoted mother who loved her children deeply. But behind that image, something was beginning to unravel. According to court records and a lawsuit later filed by Lindsay Clancy herself, her struggles with anxiety had surfaced before, following the births of both Cora and Dawson. Each time she managed to work through it. But after Callan's birth in the spring of 2022, something changed. What began as postpartum anxiety deepened through the summer and fall of that year into something far more severe. By December 2022, Lindsay Clancy's condition had become dire enough that she was evaluated at a specialized facility, the Center for Women's Behavioral Health at Women and Infants Hospital in Providence, Rhode Island. In the 4 months leading up to the killings, according to her attorneys, she was prescribed 13 different psychiatric medications, antidepressants, sleep aids, and antipsychotic. Medications that, according to expert testimony, can be dangerous when given to a patient with an undiagnosed bipolar disorder, a condition her lawyers say was never properly identified until after her children were dead. She reported worsening insomnia, anxiety that would not lift, a growing sense of despair, and moments of what her attorneys now describe as confusion about what was real and what was not. 19 days before the killings, Lindsay Clancy was discharged from a psychiatric hospital where she had gone for help. 19 days later, her 3 children would be dead. The day began like any other. Cell phone records and testimony presented at trial reconstruct Lindsay Clancy's movements with unusual precision. In the morning, she brought her daughter Cora to a pediatrician's appointment. Afterwards, she took her children outside to play in the snow, capturing photographs that she would later send to her husband. Smiling children, red cheeks, ordinary joy. Throughout the day, Lindsay and Patrick Clancy exchanged text messages, the kind of routine communication any working parent sends to a spouse at home. Nothing, on the surface, suggested anything was wrong. In the early evening, Lindsay asked Patrick to run an errand, to pick up dinner from a local restaurant, and to stop at a pharmacy to collect medicine for their daughter Cora. Prosecutors allege this was not an innocent request. They argue it was a calculated decision, one designed to remove her husband from the home during the window in which she intended to kill their children. Surveillance footage from the CVS pharmacy captured Patrick Clancy on the phone with his wife while he waited for the prescription. asking her a question about the medication. He would later testify that she sounded quiet, busy. He assumed she was in the middle of giving the children a bath. He hung up the phone. It was, he said, the last ordinary conversation he would ever have with the mother of his children. When Patrick returned home, the house was unusually silent. He called out. No one answered. He checked the children's bedrooms. He checked the bathroom, thinking perhaps they were still in the tub. Then he found blood throughout the main bedroom and a window standing open to the winter air. He ran outside and found Lindsay lying on the ground below the second-story window. She had injuries to her wrists and to her neck. She was breathing, semi-conscious. Her cuts had already stopped bleeding. Patrick struggled to get a signal on his phone. His connection kept dropping in and out of the home's Wi-Fi network, but he eventually reached a 911 dispatcher. As Lindsay drifted in and out of consciousness in the yard, he asked her what had happened. I tried to kill myself, she told him. He asked her where the children were. She told him they were in the basement. Patrick called 911 and stayed with his wife while he waited for help. When first responders arrived and began assessing Lindsay's injuries, Patrick went into the house to check on his children. Moments later, officers outside heard screaming from within the home. There, they found Patrick Clancy and heard him say the words that would open a murder investigation. She killed the kids. Cora and 8-month-old Callan were found on the floor of a den area in the basement. Dawson was found alone in his father's office. All 3 children, investigators would later determine, had resistance exercise bands wrapped around their necks. Cora and Dawson were pronounced dead at the hospital that same night. Callan, the youngest, was placed on life support. He would turn 8 months old while hospitalized. He died 3 days later, on January 27th. The cause of death for all 3 children was ruled ligature strangulation. Lindsay Clancy had jumped from the second-story window in an apparent attempt to end her own life. The fall left her paralyzed from the waist down. She survived. She has remained partially paralyzed ever since, appearing in court in a wheelchair. On February 7, 2023, the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office announced that Lindsay Clancy had been formally charged. 3 counts of murder, 3 counts of strangulation, 3 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. She was arraigned remotely, appearing on a screen from her hospital bed in Boston, unable to travel due to her injuries. She pleaded not guilty to every charge. In the days that followed her arrest, a claim emerged that would come to define the entire case. Lindsay Clancy told investigators that she had heard a man's voice in her head, a voice, she said, that instructed her to kill her 3 children. This claim sits at the center of the defense Lindsay Clancy has mounted ever since, a defense built not on denying what happened, but on arguing she should not be held criminally responsible for it. Under Massachusetts law, a defendant can be found not guilty by reason of a lack of criminal responsibility if it can be shown that, because of mental illness, she lacked the capacity to understand that her actions were wrong. Colloquially, this is known as an insanity defense. Lindsay Clancy's attorney, Kevin Reddington, does not dispute that she killed her children. No one in this case denies that fact. What is being argued in a Plymouth County courtroom is whether Lindsay Clancy was capable, in that moment, of understanding what she was doing. The defense's position is that she was not. That she was in the grip of postpartum psychosis, a rare and severe psychiatric condition that can emerge after childbirth and, in the most extreme cases, cause a complete break from reality. Combined with an undiagnosed bipolar disorder and a rotating combination of psychiatric medications that her attorneys argue were mismanaged, the defense contends Lindsay Clancy's mind was, in the days before January 24th, no longer her own. The prosecution rejects this account entirely. Plymouth County prosecutors argue that Lindsay Clancy was in full control of her actions that day, and that the killings were not a psychotic episode, but a calculated, deliberate act. At her arraignment, an assistant district attorney told the court that Clancy created the situation that allowed her to be alone with her children, specifically by sending her husband out of the house under the guise of a dinner and pharmacy run. 2 competing stories, one admitted act, and a jury now tasked with deciding what was actually happening inside Lindsay Clancy's mind on the last ordinary afternoon her family would ever know. If convicted of murder, Lindsay Clancy faces a mandatory sentence of life in prison, without the possibility of parole. If the jury instead finds she lacked criminal responsibility due to mental illness, she will not go free. She will be committed indefinitely to a state mental health facility. More than 3 years after her children died, Lindsay Clancy's trial finally began. Jury selection started on July 20, 2026. Opening statements and testimony followed 1 week later, in Plymouth Superior Court, presided over by Judge William Sullivan. The first witness called was Patrick Clancy himself, Lindsay's former husband. The couple has since divorced, and Patrick has remarried, but he returned to that courtroom to testify about the woman he once shared a life with, and about the worst night of his life. Patrick's testimony spanned 2 days. He described in painful detail his wife's mental decline in the months before the killings, her reports of intrusive thoughts about harming their children, her expressions of suicidal ideation, her search for help from specialists in postpartum mood disorders. He confirmed that she had been placed on multiple psychiatric medications one after another, as none seemed to bring relief. When none of it worked, she checked herself into a psychiatric hospital. She was discharged 19 days before she killed their children. On the stand, Patrick also walked the jury through the final hours. The dinner order, the pharmacy stop, the quiet phone call, returning home to an unnervingly silent house, finding blood in the bedroom, finding Lindsay outside, injured, telling him she had tried to take her own life, asking her where their children were. Her answer? The basement. Then the moment prosecutors say defines the crime scene itself. Patrick entering the basement and discovering all 3 of his children lying still, exercise resistance bands tied around each of their necks. The courtroom heard the actual 911 call Patrick made that night. Judge Sullivan took the unusual step of barring the recording's release to the public or media, allowing only those physically present in the courtroom to hear it. Jurors visibly reacted. Several were seen wiping away tears. Lindsay Clancy, seated at the defense table, put her face in her hands and sobbed as the recording played. Her parents, seated nearby, cried as well. Patrick had already left the courtroom by the time the recording was played for the jury. Prosecutors have used Patrick Clancy's testimony to reinforce their theory that the killings were premeditated, pointing to the timing of the errand, the fact that 2 witnesses who spoke to Lindsay by phone that evening, a pharmacy manager and a restaurant hostess, both testified that nothing about her sounded unusual. The picture that has emerged in court, even from the prosecution's own witnesses, is a complicated one. A mother described repeatedly, by multiple people who knew her, as loving and devoted, right up until the night she killed her children. That contradiction has run through nearly every day of testimony since. The trial has now stretched into its 2nd week. Emergency room doctors who treated Lindsay Clancy and 2 of her children took the stand, along with additional first responders. A Massachusetts State Police trooper, who searched the family's home the night of the killings, read aloud from journal entries Lindsay Clancy had written in the months before, chronicling what her attorneys describe as a mind unraveling under the weight of undiagnosed illness and mismanaged medication. On cross-examination, her defense attorney pushed back, suggesting prosecutors had selected only the passages that fit their narrative, while leaving out entries that captured the fuller context of her deteriorating condition. By the 7th day of trial, jurors heard from Elaine Rossi, the family's former nanny, who was hired shortly after Callan's birth and worked for the family until December 2022. Rossi told the court that in the months she worked in the Clancy home, she witnessed Lindsay lose significant weight, struggle to sleep, and openly discuss her postpartum mental health difficulties. But Rossi testified that she never once feared Lindsay Clancy posed any danger to their children, or to herself. "I observed a wonderful mom who loved her kids," Rossi told the jury. "She was concerned about their safety, and Callan eating and sleeping. She was a wonderful mother." It is testimony like this, devotion and danger sitting side by side, that legal analysts say makes this case so difficult for a jury to resolve. According to attorneys following the trial closely, neither the 911 call nor the testimony of loved ones is likely to single-handedly decide the outcome. Instead, the case is expected to turn on a battle between competing psychiatric experts, and on whether prosecutors can convince the jury, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Lindsay Clancy understood, in that moment in that basement, that what she was doing was wrong. Toxicology evidence has also entered the record. A witness who examined drug levels found in Lindsay Clancy's system following the killings testified that the amounts of certain substances were significant enough to be classified as reportable findings. Among the drugs detected were benzodiazepines, a class of medication known to depress the central nervous system, along with a medication typically used to treat bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. This week, Lindsay Clancy spoke in open court for the first time since the trial began, addressing Judge Sullivan directly. Her attorney informed the court that Clancy would be admitting to certain facts contained in the prosecution's case, a legal maneuver that removes the state's burden of proving those specific facts beyond a reasonable doubt, but does not constitute a guilty plea to murder itself. The trial continues. Prosecutors are expected to call additional witnesses in the coming days, followed by the defense's presentation of its own psychiatric experts, who are expected to testify in detail about postpartum psychosis and its documented capacity to sever a person's connection to reality. Whatever the jury ultimately decides, the trial of Lindsay Clancy has already forced a national conversation about postpartum mental illness, one that reaches far beyond a single courtroom in Plymouth County. Medical experts estimate it affects roughly 1 to 2 out of every 1,000 new mothers. But when it occurs, it is considered a genuine psychiatric emergency, a condition capable of producing hallucinations, delusions, and a complete detachment from reality, typically emerging within the first weeks after childbirth. What makes the Clancy case especially significant to medical professionals and mental health advocates is the question of timing and treatment. Lindsay Clancy did seek help. She was evaluated by specialists. She was hospitalized. She was prescribed more than a dozen medications in an attempt to stabilize a condition that, according to her attorneys, was never correctly diagnosed until it was too late. Both Lindsay and Patrick Clancy have filed separate lawsuits against the medical providers who treated her in the months leading up to the killings, alleging malpractice and negligence. Those lawsuits allege that her mental health deteriorated rapidly following Callan's birth, that she sought help repeatedly, including at an outpatient treatment facility, and that her providers failed to properly diagnose and treat the severity of her condition, instead cycling her through a shifting combination of psychiatric drugs over 4 months. For advocates working in maternal mental health, the case has become a difficult but necessary flashpoint, a reminder that the period following childbirth, so often depicted publicly as a time of unblemished joy, can for some women become the most dangerous psychiatric crisis of their lives, and that the systems meant to catch that crisis before it turns catastrophic do not always work. For the family of Patrick Clancy, the case is not an abstraction. It is the loss of Cora, Dawson, and Callan, 3 children who will never grow up, whose photographs from a snowy afternoon in January are among the last images taken of them alive. For the jury in Plymouth Superior Court, the case is now a matter of law. Whether the woman sitting at the defense table, the one who does not dispute what her hands did that January evening, understood in that moment that it was wrong. The trial is expected to continue for several more weeks. 3 children who should be alive today are not. A mother who spent her career helping other women bring life into the world, instead became responsible for the deaths of her own 3 children. And a courtroom in Massachusetts is now left to answer a question with no easy resolution. Where does the line fall between a mind shattered by illness and a mind that made a choice? The story of Lindsay Clancy does not have a tidy ending. It may not have one even after the verdict is read. What it does have is a warning about the fragility of the mind after childbirth, about the gaps that can exist in psychiatric care, and about how a family that looked, from the outside, like it had everything, was quietly coming apart in ways almost no one around them could see. This has been an investigation into the case of Lindsay Clancy. Subscribe to Behind the Case File for more true crime investigations covered with accuracy and respect.